Welcome to Beyond the Counter, the podcast that goes behind the scenes of the UK's food hall industry. I'm your host, Simon Anderson, operator, consultant, and someone who's spent more than a decade obsessed with food, place, and the people shaping both. Hi, and welcome back to Beyond the Counter. In this episode, I'm very excited to have Simon Mitchell, CEO of KERB. And this is a really interesting theme in the fact that we've got a company here that's really gone from has done the complete journey from the street all the way through to dominating the globe. So welcome, Simon. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Cool. No, it's a pleasure. As we start all of these podcasts, it's really interesting to sort of get a bit of background on the person that we're talking to. So can we, a couple of minutes on just your journey from where you first started and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. I started in events and catering. I had my own events agency for about 10 years, primarily selling parties, Christmas parties, that kind of thing to corporate clients up until the banking crisis, which was a real learning curve. You know, at that point, there hadn't been any of these major disasters in my lifetime. I wasn't prepared for it at all. Nearly lost the business, managed to end up selling it for a small amount of money and went to work for a bigger company doing sort of the same thing, more kind of venues and catering at that point. Worked there for 5 years. At that time, I discovered KERB as a bit of a fan. I was at the launch party with my wife in 2012 in King's Cross. And it was there that I had the idea to start selling Christmas parties that had genuine independent street food and craft beer and cocktails, rather than what everyone else was selling, which was, mass catering, canapes, sit-down dinner, wine, and cheap beer. And it flew off the shelves. And we did really well. And 5 years into working there, we had a disagreement. I decided to leave, and by complete coincidence and luck, within about a week of handing in my notice, Petra approached me to see if I wanted to work a bit more closely with KERB to develop this catering angle.
Yeah. So perfect. So you came in on that side of it, and that was the sort of the first steps into it. Yeah. And then you progressed through there. So you became MD, and now you're CEO. Yeah,
that's right. I was hired 10 years ago now. As MD, small business, running the markets mainly, King's Cross, the Gherkin, West India Quay, lunchtime markets that KERB was famous for, a few big one-off events, and we just started the catering angle. Yeah. So Petra just hired a lady called Alana to run it, and it was 8 people, didn't have an office. How do we commercialize this? And it was a really interesting time because Street Feast, had gone big. Dinorama was open, Hawker House was open, and there were some other, players just sort of starting to emerge. And I think she was kind of like, I started this thing. How do I now monetize it and grow it? So that's what she hired me to do. And obviously it's developed over the years. I'm now CEO. We do a few different things. Very happy.
We'll cover those different things. So it was, going back in the day, it was the kind of, KERB was the first that, in the US, street food and street food markets was the kind of thing, you had them, because of the different culture they have there, you'd have pop-ups in Portland, wherever. I remember going to different American cities and seeing all of these consolidation of different food trucks and stalls and everything. And and KERB was really the first one to start that collective street food idea. So I think it'll be interesting as we carry on the talk, we'll see how that has progressed through everything else that you've done and how you managed to keep that kind of ethos and idea. So you were doing the markets. I mean, at those days you had how many markets did you have back then? You had
5 or 6.
Yeah.
Not many. But yeah, it was very early days.
Yeah. And then that progressed. So your first step into Bricks Mortar was 7 Dials. So that was quite a big step up in terms of working on the sort of streets to a giant site in Covent Garden.
Yeah, there was a big step in between.
Right.
So one of the first things I noticed when I joined KERB was there was no security.
Yeah.
All these markets were on short-term, meanwhile contracts, so nothing to really build your business on. We needed a home. We needed some kind of permanence. Within a year of me starting, we got very lucky and we got the opportunity to curate the West Yard of Camden Market.
Right, yeah.
So I never remember that. It was, 30, 40 gazebos, not managed, very little health and safety. We reimagined that, built these purpose-built kiosks that are still there today, and curated kind of the best of KERB lineup in that space. And again, some of the vendors are still there today. That kind of gave us a bit of a experience of how to manage and curate a food hall. It was outdoors, but it was a bit of that experience. And we ran a bar, which was key at Camden. We came out of Camden Market, and Seven Dials happened very quickly after that. And I love telling the story of Seven Dials Market because it almost doesn't sound true, but I knew we needed a home. And I used to have a business coach, and we used to meet at the Hospital Club on Endell Street. I don't know if you remember that place.
Gotcha.
So I used to walk past what was the Thomas Neal warehouse, which had been vacant for a couple of years. The landlord had kind of stripped it back and put these amazing festoon lights everywhere. And I used to walk past it all the time, fantasizing almost that this would be an incredible food hall. But obviously KERB were nowhere near capable of delivering that. We didn't have the funds, we didn't have the experience. Time went on, and then Street Feast actually announced that they'd signed the lease on that site, and obviously a bit crushed by that. Again, another 6-12 months down the line, Camden's doing quite well, and someone at Street Feast told me that they'd pulled out of the lease for Thomas Neal's warehouse. So I jumped on a call straight away to our property agent that we had at the time and said, right, you've got to get me a meeting with Shaftesbury. And then it all happened really quickly. We managed to get the lease. We took a big risk. A big problem with that site originally was licensing. It was very difficult to get a liquor license. When we opened, you could only drink on the ground floor. And you couldn't even bring your drink up to the first floor. We got that relaxed very quickly, but we took a risk to go for it. Shaftesbury also took a risk on us. We were still a very small company, and they wanted that sense of independence. I think we did, and we do, better than anyone. So took a real punt on us. So Seven Dials Market opened September 2019. And that was by far the biggest thing we've ever done. Many sleepless nights, in the run up, thinking, what the hell have I done? We're now on the hook for this big rent. But luckily it went when it has gone really well. And first 6 months were brilliant. It was packed, and then COVID hit 6 months in, which was fun and games. But no, Seven Dials is the thing that changed the game for us. It really shone a light on our business and took us from kind of an indie curator and membership organisation of street food businesses to kind of have the attention of major businesses around the world.
And it's good. I mean, Shaftesbury, it shows the importance of a really good landlord as well, doesn't it? And the fact that Shaftesbury, and I guess it would have been like Julia at the time, would have been your landlord. So when they get it and then they kind of are brave enough to take the step as well, then that always helps in those sort of situations. Yeah,
they were amazing. I'm still in touch with all of them. Julia, Sam and Charlie from Shaftesbury, they've all kind of moved on now, but they're great people. And it says a lot that I'm still in touch with them because they genuinely care about delivering great experiences.
And then so part of the kind of ethos, and I think one of the strengths of KERB, and I think it's really important for what you do for your own business, but also the message that it gives to other businesses, has been like the KERBinator program. And you talk about your vendors, you mentioned it there, as members, not as kind of cash cows or people that are taking your space. They're not tenants, they're members, and they've been through a program. So could you give us a bit of background and flavour of what that actually means? Because it's much more than just saying it's a thing that you do. It's a kind of real core pillar of your business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the thing that sets us apart from anyone else, pretty much globally. So Petra started KERB in 2010 as a collective. It was literally her and some great people she'd met trading. In 2012, it turned into a business, KERB, but it was a membership organisation. And since 2012, we've been a membership organisation for the best street food vendors, originally in London, then the country, and now sort of globally. So it is a membership program. People pay. It's not a lot. It's kind of £5 a week to be a member of KERB. In return for that membership, you get all of our opportunities. So whether it's a pitch at Seven Dials Market or a lunch spot at the Gherkin or an event catering job, you get all of those inquiries if you're in that region. So it's democratic. We also help you with your health and safety. We help you with, training, education programs, etc. And that membership pot now sits in our social enterprise. So coming out of COVID, we set up KERB Plus, which is our social enterprise. Those fees actually help, fund the social enterprise, which in turn helps get disadvantaged people into hospitality, into work, and hopefully to start their own street food business. So wherever we are, it's a membership organisation. We're looking for the best vendors. We see it as a partnership. We don't have a landlord-tenant relationship. You never hear me talk about them as tenants.
Yeah.
It's partners, it's members. We've always had the ethos wherever we trade, to be in it together. We never want to kind of hold someone to a lease and be responsible for bankrupting a small independent vendor. If it's not going well for them, it's probably not going well for us, and vice versa. It's just an easy conversation to say, this isn't working. Let's get you out quickly before you lose a load of money.
Yeah.
In the same way, if someone's really successful, we're very open and honest about how long they will be in a fixed site, so they can plan and help to grow their business. And the idea for Seven Dials Market was that stepping stone between having a street food business and bricks and mortar. Now, the world has shifted post-COVID, and actually you're seeing people shut down their restaurants to focus primarily on street food, pop-up opportunities, event catering. So that has shifted slightly, but we still see it as a place where we can really shine a light on a new business, and then they can go on to bigger things. And our incubator program is a massive part of that. It's a 12-week program, 6 weeks of classroom, and 6 weeks trading on the street, to really kind of give people an amazing experience and grounding of how hard it is. And not everyone, completes that course because it is really hard. But we've pivoted because obviously street food isn't the be all and end all like it was in 2012.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pop-up opportunities now. People can go straight to food halls and other kind of meanwhile spaces. So we are pivoting that scheme, and it's not exclusively the only way into KERB.
Yeah.
We do cherry pick from people that have popped up elsewhere, but regardless of where you've come from, it is a membership organisation. To be part of KERB, you need to pay your fees and you need to be part of that membership.
And is it open to everyone, or do you kind of vet the people that come through? Do you look for what do you look for, or again, is it a natural filtering process in the fact that people who can't take it, can't hack it, can't make it?
No, I mean, it's open to anyone to apply. Obviously, there is a filtration system. There's a qualitative aspect to it. There's a people aspect to it. We want to work with people that we like, we want to work with and are good for the community. We also, we go out and cherry pick people because sometimes there's a cuisine we're lacking in, or a new trend that we need to, have on our roster.
Yeah.
But anyone can apply to KERB, and then there is that filtration system to kind of ideally get the best of the best. And that's not just food, that's, people, experience, everything.
And it's part of the process. Do you make them stand outside of the cold for a week and see if they can handle that?
No, but we do. Anyone that comes to work for KERB in head office has to do a day trading on a market.
Right, okay.
Because that's the roots of KERB. Yeah, we might have food halls now and fan zones and event business, but we started on the street. We still run those markets. So anyone that works at KERB, from my COO to whoever, has to do a day trading on the market to understand what it's like and understand how hard it is for the people that we're working with. And, without them, we don't have a business.
Yeah.
That's what I always tell people, we don't make any food. So, without our vendors and our members, we don't have a business. So you've got to understand and see where they're coming from and appreciate what they do.
And then when you're looking, so if you're with the creation of Seven Dials, do you have in your mind that you have a certain amount of people that come via your program, and then a certain people that are kind of external businesses, or was that originally part of the mindset? And because you've got sort of two parts to Seven Dials, isn't it? You've got the main hall, and then you've got, is it Cucumber Alley?
That's right.
So, and that seems to be for younger, smaller kind of, probably not so much hot food sort of operators, or there is sort of grab and go and dessert elements. But how did you approach that curation process with your own pool of people?
It's a mixed bag. We try to prefer our membership as much as possible. Yeah. So in an ideal world, everyone, in Seven Dials Market would come from the membership, but there's 21 outlets.
Yeah.
So whilst we prefer them, we also want best in class.
Yeah.
So there are times where someone incredible comes up and we have to give them an opportunity. Cucumber Alley, as you rightly say, is a great opportunity for that. They're smaller units, quite a few sweet items in Cucumber Alley. We don't have that many in the membership because they don't trade that well at lunch markets. So someone like Little Pudding that came in Cucumber Alley hadn't really traded with us much before, and has absolutely flown, gone viral, doing big numbers. Likewise, in the Banana Warehouse in the main space, we're about to change the taco operator. The food team went around London to source the best tacos in London. And there was a short list of 3, one of which was a member. And we genuinely feel they could be classed as the best taco in London, and they were preferred because they have a history with us. We know them. So it kind of works both ways.
And again, I mean, quite recently last year, I mean, you took a very brave step and actually, I mean, I've operated food halls, and we all started in with this kind of brave kind of notion that we'd regularly change our lineup and we'll keep it fresh and we'll keep and do that. But I think most people, if they're honest, most operators will go, "Oh no, when we're making, let's not rock the boat. We're making a lot of money with these people. There's no really reason to change things." But you decided to really completely refreshen your lineup. Yeah. So you got rid of quite a few traders. I mean, did you get into all traders, or was it?
No, it was a big chunk.
Yeah. So people have been there for
since it
started, and so you brought totally new people in, and the majority of those people were from your program.
All of those at that time,
Cool. I mean, and so how did that process feel for you?
So that was kind of living by our beliefs. It was, like you say, everyone has grand ideas, and COVID happened. So after COVID, it was about stabilising and giving those businesses security, giving them the opportunity to build back up some money and their business. But at that point, we felt like we wanted to stay ahead of the game. And with a food hall in central London, yes, there are lots of tourists, but a large percentage of our audience are office workers and Londoners. And if you have the same food there for 5 years, it gets a bit boring. And we wanted to freshen it up, and there was some great new talent coming through, and we thought this was a great opportunity. It wasn't without its challenges. The reality is people were creatures of habit. So the new traders for a while were slightly lower down the rankings, and it took time for them to get to the level of the ones we'd taken out. But overall, I'm pleased we did it. I think it was a success. Would we do it again? Probably not so many in one go. Is the honest answer.
And filter it out.
We will change, every 6 months we'll swap out 1 or 2. We will continue to do that.
And what was the thinking of that? That was purely just from the customer side and from your lineup, and also some of the businesses you'd had in there were would actually have been so successful that they themselves had converted to bricks and mortar.
I mean, I don't think you mind me saying, but Truffle Burger was joined Seven Dials Market when we opened in 2019. It was Tom's first big thing. He'd only recently started his street food business. By the time he left Seven Dials Market, he had 5 fixed sites. That's what we're there to do. It's kind of job done. As great as you are, as well as you trade, it's time to give someone else that opportunity. So we brought in Lucky's fried chicken to that spot, who'd been popping up at the National Theatre with us. And it was about freshening up. It was also about giving new people an opportunity. And that's what we always sought out to do with Seven Dials, was have that stepping stone. So it's time to give the next person the opportunity to get there.
Yeah, which is I'm totally support, because I think that's if we look at the ecosystem and where food halls fit into that model, we have to be championing independent young business, and it's the perfect platform to do it. There's low barriers of entry. There's lots of guardrails to help safety, to provide knowledge and input into their businesses. And I think when you see, my big fear is you're seeing the big corporate brands trying to get into that space. Then that's, to me, just is giving all the wrong messages about what it should be. Because, well, one, it's a great message because they see that food halls are a really valued place that they can put their brand and their businesses. But I don't think we should be stopping the opportunities for young businesses, and I think that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. I mean, our food halls, wherever we are, will always operate solely for independent businesses. And we've exited businesses in the past from Seven Dials and other sites that have taken, private equity money or whatever. And we get a lot of requests to trade for us for someone that's, very well funded. And they see, we know what they're doing. They want a shop window in a food hall for 6 to 12 months to go boom and have 20 sites. That's not really for us. We want to support that independent operator. Now, conversely, with what we did last January, we also brought Bleecker Burger in. So you could call me a hypocrite. But I think the thought process behind that was the burger vendor we brought in after Truffle didn't work out for various reasons, and we really wanted best in class.
Yeah.
Zan started with KERB.
Yeah.
Back in the day in 2012. And she's always been a huge champion of KERB. She's a huge supporter. She mentors. She comes to the incubator workshops, and I've been trying to get her since we opened. I tried to get Bleecker in 2012 when we opened, not 2012, sorry, 2019 when we opened. We've been doing loads of stuff together, and we just thought it was a great opportunity to bring her back and kind of tell the story of the full ecosystem.
Yeah.
She is the best burger in London.
Yeah.
Bleecker is the best burger in London. We wanted to have it. She brings so much to the community. She's doing these amazing pop-ups. She's done with Speedboat and others. They're for charity. She does a lot of that kind of work. I think it's a real inspiration
she's
to
great.
The rest of our membership of what you could do. So, whilst we will always stay true to independent and London, sometimes there is room for someone, a more experienced operator as well.
Definitely. We did a Bleecker Pick-You burger. That was potentially the best burger ever. That was an epic crossover when we did that one day. And of course, so with just focusing on the food hall side, so 7 Dials, you've got 7 Dials.
Yeah.
Most other companies thought, okay, well, I'm doing Covent Garden. Maybe we'll do a train station, or maybe we'll look at another part of London, or maybe another city in the UK, which I'm sure you're looking at and we can discuss. But your next site after that was Berlin.
Yes.
So you've gone sort of international. Which I think is exciting for the strength of our market in terms of its appeal abroad. Mm-hmm. So how did that come about? How's that actually been?
So very quickly after 7 Dials, we were offered a lot of opportunities, and we toured around looking at lots of different sites. And our view was that we wanted to deliver these big food halls, 20,000 square foot plus, the sense of occasion, the sense of arrival, somewhere that could be really fun and energetic. And the reality is that there aren't many cities outside London where you can operate a 20,000 square foot space 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Mackie Mayer does it very well in Manchester, but there's very few other success stories. Somewhere like Freight Island in Manchester, which is brilliant, only opens weekends and with lots of programming. And that was our sense, was that a lot of the places we were being offered in other cities in the UK, we couldn't sustain them 7 days a week. They still cost the same to build, maybe a little bit less. It's still, still similar rents, et cetera, et cetera. The numbers just didn't stack up for us to do those big food halls. We got offered this opportunity in Berlin in 2020, just before the pandemic. It's taken a really long time. And we just love the idea of doing another major city that has a brilliant independent food scene. Berlin's got one of the most brilliant independent food scenes in Europe. Great landlord that was going to support us. It took a bit longer than we planned, but that's our strategy, is kind of, big food halls in high density cities where you can hit office workers, locals, tourists. So that's how Berlin came around. It's been a lot harder than we expected. I think to build in Germany is hard and expensive, and it takes a long time. Curating the lineup was great. I think we have a phenomenal lineup, and actually we were really well received in Berlin, which I'm really grateful for. It's all been slower and very expensive, and I think it's a big learning for us. And what we do next, we're kind of on the fence a bit. Maybe we will have a look at some other cities in the UK, maybe do something smaller. We've obviously pivoted and done KERB Social Club recently. So, nothing with us is ever going to be cookie cutter. Berlin is very different to 7 Dials, in that 7 Dials is an amazing Victorian warehouse. Berlin was an IMAX cinema. It's very kind of futuristic, Blade Runner-esque.
Yeah.
We'll always play to the sense of space and try and build spaces that fit in with their surroundings. The next one could be completely different. We want them to be fun. We want them to have great food, but, we're open to see what's next.
Cool. And then you mentioned, you touched on KERB Social Club there. So I think what's also interesting as well is you got flexibility to your business, and you do test new formats. So I think lots of other companies are just replicating what they've done. Brand, look, feel, even lineup, which is really weird across different cities. So you've recently launched, very close to here, KERB Social Club in Spitalfields.
Yeah.
So what's the thinking and idea behind that?
So as you say, we're predominantly privately owned business still, and with that, we're not under pressure to do anything, to do a rollout, let's say, so we can have a bit of fun.
Yeah.
And we wanted to create a brilliant sports bar that wasn't kind of lads, wasn't all leather and wood and lager, and we wanted it to be inclusive. Female sport is massive. We wanted somewhere that was family friendly. And so we've created a sports bar, essentially, that hopefully does feel inclusive. It's very KERB, it's very bright, it's very colourful, very accessible, great food, obviously. And then we've kind of tried to, blend that kind of social activity into it as well. So there are various games. There's basketball, air hockey, pool tables, darts. We've got 5 private rooms you can hire. Each have a pool table, a dartboard, karaoke, Nintendo Switches. But it kind of started as this vanity project of, could we build a brilliant sports bar in London? Is there somewhere I can go and watch American football, get some great chicken wings in a great environment, and have a lot of fun? That's how it came about. And it was, the opportunity came up in Spitalfields. It's a market. We're a markets business. What a great location for the first one. And we'll see what happens. It could be something that we do more of, and we are thinking about that. But
I love it. It's very experiential. So I've been and I've checked out. The rooms are amazing.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing in a lot of food halls actually is they are crossing out. They're actually putting those elements, those experiential, competitive, social elements into their food halls.
Yeah.
So you could see that you could transplant that and put it into a food hall, and you can see it be successful. And there's I'm sure it's providing lots of amazing testing in terms of what works and what doesn't work in terms of how those bits come about. And then the other interesting one, which I think it's probably one of the most interesting sites in London, and probably, I don't know, it's in Canada Water, so it's one of those ones where it is a bit of an effort to get to it. But Corner.
Yes.
So again, that's a completely different step.
Yep.
In partnership with Broadwick
Live.
So that's a massive old Home Depot or whatever, and I think everyone should go just to go and see the largest indoor farm in London. And I think that's a fascinating site. So what was the kind of story and thinking behind that one?
So Broadwick Live are friends of ours. Simeon that runs it, actually, I worked with him in my last job before KERB, and we've known each other for over 20 years. He's gone on to do Broadwick, I'm at KERB. We work together a lot. So we do a lot of the catering at their venues, Printworks, Drum Sheds, Exhibition, Magazine.
Yeah. Amazing business, Broadwick Live, isn't it, in terms of what they've brought to London in terms of creating different spaces.
I'm famous in their world for telling Sim that Printworks would never work when he took me for a tour, and how wrong you could be.
That does take a lot of vision, though. When you go in there, that's crazy.
Yeah. So obviously, Broadwick have a connection with British Land, who are developing Canada Water. As the next stage of their kind of placemaking, they really wanted a food anchor. And approached us to build a food hall. It's a meanwhile asset, it's not a long-term thing, in Canada Water. And long story short, we decided to do it together with Broadwick Live as a JV. So it's a JV between the two of us. We're responsible for the food and drink and kind of the operations of the food hall. Broadwick are responsible for the programming. So DJs, bands. It's got a massive event space. We've had Minecraft in there for a year, which has been hugely successful. We're now going to hire that on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, cool.
We're going to do some of our own pop-up events. So the plan is to bring back some of the events that KERB did 10 years ago that we were very famous for, that we haven't done since we opened Seven Dials, to bring some of those back. So they do the programming, we do the food and drink. It's got the largest indoor farm in the UK in there. It looks incredible. It's very green everywhere, and it's a kind of jazz club. So there'll be some live music most nights, and it's just a really cool space.
But I think I told you before, I think it'd make a great rave venue, because because it's ultraviolet. The pink lights in the middle of it. It's kind of Blade Runner.
Unfortunately, we're not allowed to do that.
People find out, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
And in terms of the way you've done the lineup there, so you've got some great brands. So you've got a mutual friend, Dave from Chicken's Houses there.
Yeah.
And you've got some other of your brands that have been through the system. So, but for that, it's kind of one kitchen, so it's not your traditional format of separate kitchens, and which is similar to what you've done in KERB Social as well. You're offering multiple vendors from a single kitchen. So how is that working, and what's the feedback from a customer perspective on that?
Well, we did that first at the National Theatre. So if you go to the understudy at the National Theatre,
that's a great little site, actually. I've actually been there. I love the South Bank, and it is a great spot in terms of that. And you had the big red table all the way around.
Well, we used to be big fans of just going to the understudy for a beer, and now we operate it, which is amazing. But it had this fixed kitchen where they were, when the catering was in-house, they would do a burger, a pizza and chicken out of one kitchen. So we were kind of stuck with that layout, and it's worked really well. So we have 3 vendors constantly at the understudy, and we change one every 6 months. So we moved that concept to corner because we weren't quite sure how it was going to play out. So it's 3 vendors sharing one kitchen, and they have a station each. So it's absolutely fine, to be honest with you. The ordering process, though, is great. So you go to Seven Dials Market. Part of the experience is, and I love it and we'll never change it, you have to go up to the kiosk, you have to order your food, you get a buzzer. We don't do app ordering for food. Part of the shtick for Seven Dials is you go round, you talk, you interact. That's part of it. We'll never change that. But we wanted a different experience in corner. So you can go to the bar, order your drink, and mix and match food from all 3 vendors. And that works well now. It was a process, and there was a learning that had to be done through the first 6 months. But that's worked really well. We have a 4th vendor in a separate kitchen in the kind of cafe area, and again that's worked really well. So we've got Sorelli, brilliant guys. So that's open kind of 7 days a week as our anchor, and then we open the other 3 when we're busy. And that's been really good.
And so from an operational perspective, so because I think you're seeing various different models and operation systems form within food halls. So you've got the traditional independent vendors doing all that kind of stuff. So, and then you've got, say, the arcade model, where it's, again, the chef's design and menus are at an executive level. And
they're doing?
There's a single execution of that. I think so. And then, so with those 3 kitchens, so they individually staffed by each operator. So it's just literally a station. They manage it. They're in charge of their own sourcing, food, and all that kind of stuff. So that's
absolutely
okay. Cool.
We won't touch the food. That's like the golden rule at KERB. No, we're not chefs. We don't employ chefs. We don't do the food. We leave them to it. So yes, they have to source deliveries, everything themselves, staffing themselves. We supply the kitchen porters. So we do the washing up. We keep the kitchen
which
clean.
is standard food.
Exactly.
Element of that.
But it works well for us.
And then so probably the biggest different area of your business, and I'd be really interested to find out how these all compare in terms of like percentage of turnover and how big a business is the event side. So, and that covers off lots of different areas. So that's gone from pure event catering, which again, from your background, so I'm sure you know that kind of very well, but seems to progress now through dealing with, I know as an Aston Villa fan, so I know that you guys provide the bar and the amazing catering bar and catering facilities at Villa Park, and the fan element of Villa Park is amazing. Bit shocked you started doing Birmingham City as well, though. That's kind of, you must be the only people who have crossed that border between kind of Villa and Blues.
When I'm in Birmingham, we do Birmingham City, and when I'm in Aston, we do Aston Villa.
Okay. God, right. That sensibility wouldn't have gone at my school. We wouldn't have got away with that one. So that's really evolved as a big part of your business and what you're doing as well. Are you involved in Fulham?
No.
Okay, cool.
No, that's separate. No, so event catering is a huge part of our business, and actually, our events business is the same size as our food hall business,
right? Okay.
In terms of turnover and profit. It's something that I think KERB fell into, as I said back, years ago. I was one of the first clients booking KERB vendors for our events. No one else was really doing that. And it grew organically from kind of 2012 every year up until the pandemic. And we were seeing 100% growth every year.
Wow.
It was incredible. So we have kind of 3 kind of strings to our bow of event catering, if you like. So there's conventional event catering. We mainly do corporate work. So we don't do weddings. We don't do one trader events. It's kind of big corporate events. And we are listed as a preferred supplier for street food at most venues in London, from the Printworks, Drum Sheds, Ministry of Sound, to Natural History Museum, Somerset House, etc. And, we deliver great independent street food for a party, which, there's not much better, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You can get that $7 market, experience at your Christmas party in whichever venue you choose. So that's been really successful. Then in COVID, we took a small investment from Compass Group, obviously the biggest catering company in the world, which opened doors. And they have the contracts for a lot of sports stadia, and that's how we've gone into that market. So we operate at Aston Villa, Birmingham, Tottenham Hotspur, various other stadiums. We also do Wimbledon, we do Cheltenham, we do Goodwood,
Wow.
with these fan experiences, and they are, rapidly developing. So you'll know at Villa what started with kind of 4 vans and a bar is now this huge purpose-built, structure. And again, next year it's going to evolve again into the warehouse, which is a massive, huge music venue, street food hall,
it's going to be big as a food hall, isn't it?
It's going to be incredible.
Yeah.
I'm delighted to say we're involved in that. Birmingham, we have something like 20 vendors and 6-7 bars at every match day now. It's become a big thing. And I think, fans now expect a better experience. And it's that Americanization of the sport experience that's come over here with the American owners.
Yeah.
That they don't want the dodgy burger van on the corner anymore, Yes, there's hospitality, but for most fans, there isn't. So can we give them a good food and drink experience? Can we control that? And we've been a big part of that, which is fantastic. And then the third part is kind of venue catering contracts. So the biggest one we have is the National Theatre, where we operate all the food and beverage at that building on the South Bank, everything from the understudy and the mini food hall next door, the pop-ups outside, to curating the restaurants, Forza and Lasden, and all the theatre bars. So hugely proud of that. We also operate Dreamland in Margate, which is fun.
God,
it's a theme park, but it's also a massive concert venue.
Yeah, definitely,
in the summer. So that part of our business has been great and has sort of grown organically. It's not something many people want to talk about, to be honest with you. So I'm delighted to talk about it.
Well, no, but it's one of those things, because if you looked at the journey, if you didn't know, if you just said, okay, well, look, they did street food markets, then they did 7 Dials, and then done Bullet. They haven't really done that much. But when you actually look underneath the hood of what you're doing, you've probably done more to expand the importance of street food than any other operator out there, because you are taking quality traders who've been educated and have done the journey correctly and putting them in front of more people in a weekend than anyone else probably is in the kind of the whole of the country.
Yeah, I think one of the things early on was, I remember when I first started, it was, for some people, street food was almost a hobby.
Yeah.
And they'd have the van out in the summer going around the festivals, they do the lunch markets, and they'd all go on holiday for the winter or close down their business and do something else. And actually that corporate event catering, Christmas parties, finally gave a group of people a year-round business.
Yeah.
Where trade is very hard in the middle of the winter. Our lunch markets today, freezing cold, raining, it's going to be hard to earn a living.
Yeah.
Whereas a corporate event prepaid, at the Natural History Museum tonight is going to be very nice. Thank you very much. So that pivot into catering gave our members, year-round, income, but also security. That you turn up at a market with 200 portions, it pisses down with rain, you're not selling very much.
Yeah.
Whereas a corporate event is prepaid, 200 portions, you know what you're getting, you can bank on it. So that evolution has been great, not just for us, but for our members, and that's how we think about everything.
Yeah.
Is it good for our members?
And in terms of that, and then just to you touched on the relationship there with Compass, because I think that's one of the ones that people just mentioned. What is that relationship?
Yep.
So that was purely just investment on the catering side of the business, and you've got a partnership, and they open up. Is that's
yeah? It was. I was approached during COVID by a subsidiary of Compass called Levy, that operate the sports stadiums in the UK. We worked with them at Excel. So a big conference comes into Excel, Adobe, someone like that, 5-day event. They would call upon us to do one night of street food for that client. So that's how we met them. John Davis, who runs Levy, had the idea of putting us into sports stadia and really elevating that kind of public food, general admission food. And he's delivered on it. So initially post COVID, it was an investment in our events business. A couple of years later, we merged all our businesses into one in KERB Group. So we had one ownership across everything. So they have a minority interest in KERB. 51% of our business, of our group, is still owned by the founders and the team of KERB. So we, as I said earlier, we have that independence. What the Compass investment did is opened up doors for us, to places like Aston Villa, Tottenham Hotspur, Goodwood, Cheltenham, where we wouldn't have been. Wimbledon Championships, it's been phenomenal. And for them, it's more a strategic investment that, they have KERB on the end of the phone to help deliver some of these events, rather than a financial investment.
And I suppose it's smart on both sides, really, isn't it? Especially coming out of, to have a company with that kind of level of support post-COVID must have been a massive reassurance. And for them, it makes them kind of cool and adds their lip. So it's a win-win on both sides, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we came out of COVID, like everyone, we downsized. You do what you have to do to survive. But as soon as COVID was over, it was, like a steam train.
Yeah.
Because the opportunities were flooding in. 7 Dials, we were very lucky. The minute we opened the doors, it was absolutely packed and has been ever since. But then these events and these catering opportunities were flying in. So we grew again very, very quickly after COVID.
And so with all these, you've got these bigger projects, you've got amazing venues, you've got international stadiums, partners.
Yeah.
How do you keep that vibe and that ethos that sort of does permeate through KERB? How have you managed that? How have you made sure that you don't lose the vision from the street, basically, idea of the company?
Yeah, well, we were really worried about that. When we took investment from Compass, people can accuse us of selling out. It is, as I said, a minority investment, but still the lens is the same. And what we did at that time was create our social enterprise, and I think that is absolutely the glue that binds KERB together. We call it the heartbeat.
Yeah.
So when we went to this group structure, we kind of separated the heartbeat of KERB. So our membership sits in KERB Plus, our social enterprise, and those fees go into KERB Plus. Our lunch markets, the bit that started 12 years ago, all the revenue from our lunch markets. So you go to a KERB lunch market, buy your lunch, the profit from that for KERB goes into our social enterprise. So yeah, all the education and training we do, also all that income goes into KERB Plus. And the wider team are all involved in KERB Plus.
Yep.
So like I said, anyone that starts does a day on the market. We do volunteering days, we do fundraising, we do charity runs. It is a massive part of who we are and what we do. The team are encouraged to get out to the lunch market. So that kind of is the glue that keeps us honest, but also the membership. We are still a membership organisation, and we still look at every opportunity with the lens of, is this going to be good for our members? Is this going to be right for them? We don't want to be a property company that just rolls out food halls and has this landlord-tenant relationship. That's not us. It's got to add up for our vendors. So that's how I think we've kept kind of our authenticity. We're still, really passionate about supporting local independent businesses. We don't, work with people that have big, investment behind them. We don't work with big chains, because it's easier. And running a food hall, as is hard.
Yeah.
21 vendors in 7 Dials Market, 11 in Berlin, 17 on a match day at Birmingham City is hard.
Yeah.
The easier thing to do is to go with a more grown-up business like other people have done and have the same vendors in every site. Of course it is. But is that interesting?
No.
Is that exciting?
No.
For us and for the public? I don't think so. So that's why we do what we do, and how I think, our authenticity is key. It is our USP. We can't lose that, and I think all the team understand that.
Cool. Just jump back. Your relationship with your traders as well, do you follow the traditional model in terms of, is it share revenue and that, so you follow the traditional elements of that? There's nothing different in that in terms of the membership or how that works. You still follow the traditional terms.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we were one of the first people to do that. Our lunch markets from day one were 15% of revenue.
Yeah.
No min, no cap. And they still are.
Yeah.
Today, 12 years later, the food halls have slightly different models, but they're all a percentage of revenue with a minimum.
Cool.
And I think the minimum is there just to set a benchmark.
Yeah.
And if a vendor ever isn't hitting that minimum, well, it's not working for us, but it's probably not working for them either. So it's quite an easy conversation.
No, I've always found that that's the situation. People have always said, what do you do when someone's not working? And I've always said, they'll always come to you first if it isn't working. So that's the kind of, it starts the conversation. It's easier. So with all these bits and everything you've got going on, and the sort of the management and the logistics of doing that, what does the future hold? What does the sort of next 5 years look for in terms of where KERB's going to be? Are you focusing on one area? Are you continuing to grow each one individually, or what the business look like as things go forward?
So I think the business is going to be split in three. It's going to be events, catering. It's going to be venues, in terms of venues that we manage, like the National Theatre and Dreamland, and then food halls. We had a big year in 2025. We opened Corner, KERB Social Club, KERB Berlin. So I think it's really kind of focusing on what we've got for 12 months in 2026. Which are the things that are going to work? Which are the ones that are going to fly? Is KERB Social a massive winner? And we roll it out across the UK, or is it kind of, well, that was fun, but it's one and done?
Yeah.
Berlin, as I said, it's a challenging site. It's a challenging city. Do we do that again? Do we go to Barcelona or Madrid or Paris? Or do we look at something maybe a bit smaller somewhere else in the UK? We have some opportunities in London. I always said we'd never do another food hall in London. But, as time goes on, we wouldn't do the same. I wouldn't do another Seven Dials Market, but could we do slightly different concepts in London and do something different? So there's lots of opportunities at the moment, but I think the big thing for us is having a year of kind of stability, looking at what's worked, working out what the next steps are after such a big year of growth. We're not in a massive hurry to do 20 sites. It's very expensive to open a food hall. It takes a long time. You've got to get it right. So I think for a year, probably less is more. And then I imagine we'll go again.
Yeah.
So probably have another big year in 27.
And so finally, I mean, you've had quite a journey. What kind of advice do you give to these people that have come on the KERBinator program or the KERB Plus? And what kind of senses of realism do you actually give to people and share with them and say, look, you get this right, and then you've got a chance in this business?
Well, I think it's actually the opposite of that.
Yeah.
It is a wake up call of, this is really hard.
Yeah. This
is a really hard business, and not everyone turns into a truffle burger or a bleecker burger. There are very different types of people in our membership. There are the people that are very ambitious and see it as a pathway to a restaurant empire. There are those that want a lifestyle business, and maybe if I could have one fixed site and do the markets and do some festivals, I could earn a living. And then there's those people that do it because they love the life. There's a guy called Simon Luard who has Luardo's Burritos in Whitecross Street.
Yeah,
he's been with KERB longer than me, and he does festivals, does his markets, and that's it, and he's happy. Not everyone wants that restaurant empire. So
Ribman, remember Ribman was the original kind of
well,
that
Mark's
was King's Cross
back trading with us now at the Gherkin, cool. So you can see him every now and then at the Gherkin, but he's an original from kind of 2012 as well, still doing his thing, but he's got into the sauces. There's various different routes, but I think the big thing we say to people on the incubator is it is hard, and there is no secret to the success. It is graft. It's being brilliant at what you do, executing well every time, and sometimes you get lucky, things go viral, and you could be an overnight success, but that is not for everyone. In the UK, we have 160 members.
Right.
Not all of them are going to go on to having multiple sites, but hopefully all of them can have a profitable, sustainable business as a result of being with KERB, because we offer so many different things, I think. So that's kind of the story we tell and when people come in.
So you've got 160 members, so of which you've got 30 permanent spaces, and the rest of those are everything that goes through all your events and everything around that.
Yeah, markets. Obviously, we still run 4 or 5 lunch markets.
Yep.
All the events, catering, and then the fixed sites: National Theatre, Dreamland, Seven Dials Market, KERB Social Club, Corner. Yeah,
that's my favourite thing is going to me&u's office, because you've got the little market around the corner, and the guy that the Australian guy that does the Palmos. That's
brilliant.
That's a massive hit for an Australian company.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, Simon, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's been great, just covering all of that. For this episode of Beyond the Counter, you can find online. So please look at the links that we have with the posting. And again, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.